Hello, everybody. We're live. We have a special guest today. Our first real estate broker guest for this year, right?
Don't sell yourself short. You're a real estate broker.
Yes, but I don't actually practice anymore
True.
the actual day to day. So, Carly Fridman, one of our top brokers, top 10 in the province of Quebec a few times, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Top national chairman
Not yet.
to be. Wait,
To be.
very shortly. You have a team of how many brokers right now?
Right now, we're just me and Michelle.
So that's two. That's a good
That's
start. It's a bit, but you've been in business for 16 years. We said earlier, you focus on residential, mainly
Commercial.
high end, but there's nothing too small or too big.
No.
Some commercial stuff. I'm happy that you're here because what we want to do is actually with this channel is to help brokers grow their businesses. So I think a lot of brokers would love to have your business model and your business revenues. So hopefully you can share some tips to brokers. We had a French version and you spoke about the network. The one of the biggest tips you can give new brokers or brokers that don't have the same success as you is to use your network to get the business. Can you tell us a bit more
100%.
about that?
Well, it's something I still do now, right? So as you know, it's always been the same with me. I'm not a door-to-door. I don't really like cold calling. None of that. It's just,
I know that.
That's not my personality. It's not my brand. It's not my personality.
So can I interrupt you for a
Yeah.
second? So if you have the success that you have right now without doing cold calling and door knocking, because I talk about this all the time, that you don't have to do door knocking
No.
and cold calling, and you can still have financial success or business success.
Yeah, it's the basics of farming your market. So your circle of influence, you stay with the people that you know, you build a connection with them. And when I started, as much as it is today, if someone knows you personally, they trust you. There's a level of trust there. There's a relationship there. And this is not, we said it in the French version, we don't sell houses here.
Right.
Like houses sell themselves. You are in a relationship built business. You transact, you negotiate, you mediate, and you position properties to give them value. That's what we do.
And you do it too, if I'm not mistaken, and you can correct me, I'm sure you will. But you don't spend 120 hours either during the week to work on your business. Or am I wrong? Because I don't see you working all the time nonstop.
Well,
You do
that's
it.
what you see.
That's
That's what you see at
No,
the
no, I know,
office.
But I also,
But I've
okay,
known you
so-
for 16
So
years or so.
my business model has changed slightly in terms of I work as many hours, but I work smarter, not harder. And that's a big thing that my New Year's resolution with Michelle was, let's work smarter, not harder.
But how many hours would you say that is, though, or it averages out to
It's-
be? Like, I know it's a lot, but it's not as if you don't have anything else in your life and you're
No.
only working
But I also
to
have
attain this success.
But I also have Michelle who works full time, who's a full broker who runs her business, and we share in our sales and all that. She runs her whole rental business, excuse me. And then we have a full-time admin, and we have someone else who helps us. And previous to that, we had another broker. So it's about diversifying to be able to give the clients the best service they can have, and also giving us time to relax too. But I have changed the way in which I work. So I get up at 6:30, 6:45. I check my emails. I do my work in the morning. And this market has changed simply that I don't have to work as many hours because there's not as much property to show. So
Yeah, but
I'm
that's
not running around the same. So therefore I can concentrate my energy on doing other things. And I work on my business all the time, but I also have a full-time marketing person who works for us, who does things that I used to do myself. So I touch everything, but I've learned what my strengths and my weaknesses are. And when I'm not good at a task, and it's not a task that has to necessarily be done by myself, I'd rather give it to someone else to do. They'll do it quicker and better, and I can go and
But when
enjoy
did
myself.
that for you become something important where you're not just doing everything? I call the brokers that do everything themselves the generalist approach, which because you did start with, if I'm not mistaken, with my old memory, that you were a generalist before.
I was a journalist before.
After how many years or when did the change happen for you where you're like, okay, no, I'm not going to do everything myself. It's not the best use of my time. Did you wait before you had a certain level of revenue, or what made
for
you?
me, it wasn't well, yes, it was revenue based, because if you can't afford someone, that's different. But for me, the biggest thing was when I felt like I wasn't properly servicing my clients, then I knew I had to change my strategy.
But how do you know that? What made you
When you
feel
can't-
that you weren't servicing your clients correctly?
Well, when you can't accept a visit request because you can't divide yourself in 4.
Okay. Because that's a
And
question
that's the
I get all the time.
and
Like,
that's
when
the
do
same
I go
thing-
and hire someone, or
Right.
what's that
But
stage?
it's the same thing we have now. Listen, Michelle and I could use another full-time broker because sometimes between the two of us, we can't be in 3 places.
So if anybody's listening and looking for there's an
looking.
opportunity right there. So you cover
Yeah.
most of the greater Montreal. You don't
Yeah.
limit yourself to
No,
a
and-
specific area.
I get criticized often by other brokers for that. So that's an interesting thing you brought up. A lot of brokers say, well, you don't pick an area. Well, when I started in real estate, I started with people that I knew, right? And so if they wanted to work in the West Island, that's where I'd go. If they wanted to go to the Plateau, that's where I go. And I ended up working a lot in the Plateau in Old Montreal. There were just areas where I knew people
Right.
and where they wanted to list or sell. And I'm perfectly bilingual, as we just did in the French one. So for me, it wasn't a restriction. And I went with Royal LePage as a banner because I never wanted a client to say, well, you only deal in high end. Nothing is too big. Nothing is too small
Yeah.
for me. So therefore, I go where the clients go. If I have a good relationship with the client, whether it's a buyer, a seller, an investor, whatever it may be, I'm going to work with them. If I don't like the way this is going, I won't do it.
And I remember you driving at 2 hours. I forget exactly where it was, but south of no, was my mistake?
Yeah.
Not that- So you'll go wherever.
I will, but I also, going back to when do you realize you need to diversify? Now will co-list with a broker that's in an area if it's too far. I will refer. I don't feel the need to have to do everything. When it comes to my buyers, it's different. I'm kind of like a mommy bird with my buyers. I really want to keep my hand on them and make sure they're well serviced. But when it comes to a listing, sometimes you need to know that your limitations are something like, for example, Albert Brandt, someone that I refer to a lot because he's an expert in his area, and my client would be better served going with Albert than going with me.
But how do you make that? Because a lot of brokers will say, "Well, I'm not ready to hire someone to help me out because I don't want my clients to feel like I'm not taking care of them." How do you solve that?
It depends what your strengths are. So if your strength is being on the road and showing properties and doing that, then keep doing that and hire someone who's going to do the back end. Right. Like your success as a broker is based on how you're going to do your paperwork and how organized you are. The other thing is I'm extremely organized. And by being extremely organized, I have a lot of spare time to do other things because I'm not running backwards. I'm always going forward, not going backwards.
Yeah.
So, there was a young broker in our office who now, again, is not with us, but when he started with us, his paperwork was disgusting, like so disorganized. And I kept saying to him, you got to get organized. You've got to get organized. You're going to be in big trouble. You've got to get organized. And eventually he hired an assistant, not because he was too busy, but because he just couldn't get his paperwork together.
Yeah.
And it was stunting his growth as a broker because things were falling through the... Yeah, things were falling through the cracks. So he would end up going backwards 10 times to do something rather than spend the time building relationships or.
But he spent a lot of time doing that. That's why he had the success, though. You see? No, he had the growth because he was spending time nurturing and building relationships and not spending too much time on the administrative
100%.
Passive things.
But you have to do the administrative things because that's what you're hired to do.
It's a necessary thing, but you may want to hire someone to do that and not have to.
That's what I ultimately decided to do.
Yeah.
After 16 years, we know it's a relationship game. Yeah. After 16 years, how to maintain the relationship with those? I don't know how many transactions you've done in 16 years, but how do you maintain those relationships with everybody?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because do you use any tools? Or
I know that you're a big fan of all those softwares, and I finally started using one.
Yeah.
But before, it was as simple as having an Excel spreadsheet and knowing all my clients. I also take the time to know everything about my clients. How many kids, their birthdays, things like that. And it's all about what we call the soft touches in marketing. So you send a birthday card, you follow up. And because
I call them touches. They're not soft. Mine.
I call them soft touches.
It's the same concept.
Yeah. So you do things like that because what you want is that person to be thinking about you outside of just the transaction.
Exactly.
And so for me also, it's about, I have a lot of clients who have moved away and no longer live here. And that's not a lost client.
No.
They still have links here and they're still going to call you. And I still have clients who I've made money on referrals just simply because these the clients have called me and said, hey, I'm now looking to buy an investment property in, I don't know, Niagara on the Lake. Do you know a broker?
Yeah.
And one of the big pluses of Royal LePage is we have a huge network of brokers and a good referral service. So I can refer to another broker and I don't take that blindly. I'm not just picking one. I'll interview 2, 3. Yeah. They'll be so impressed with that link. it's not, you're not giving away business. You're redirecting the business. And that's what's important. And, you know,
good point.
the biggest proof to me of how important it is to keep up the relationships with the people is I just did a transaction. It's a house that I've sold now twice. I listed it and sold it to this couple, really nice couple. I didn't represent them, but I followed up on the transaction and I took care of the transaction and j'ai maîtrisé that house. Like I knew that house and it's a very unique house.
Okay.
And I was on top of these clients. I sent them mail. I sent them info, whatever it may be. They had another broker, but I could tell that the relationship with their broker was not the best. And when a buyer buys a house, once they bought the house, there's no legal reason why or ethical reason why you can't keep going to that. Anyways, this year I sold that house and I'm on my third transaction with them this year. And it's a relationship made in heaven. We work so well together and they're so happy with it.
We get this question, Jeff. Yesterday we had the topic of following up and someone was asking, I think it was Mark, I forget his name, but was saying, well, what's the frequency of your follow-ups? Do you have an average or it just
much
depends?
is too much?
Well, every week is too much.
How much is not enough is the question.
Yeah,
every week is too much. Every month is too much, but every quarter, depends on the relationship with that person. If you know that person's on the cusp of maybe doing something.
No, but you don't know. Let's say like you sell them a house. Yeah. They just bought. So what's your frequency of follow-up after that?
Quarterly to every 6 months.
Okay. And did you diversify or you just do emails, just letters, just
completely diversified,
just social media?
No, completely diversified.
So a bit of everything.
A bit of everything. Everybody does the standard Christmas card. Everybody does the standard,
See, I've been, because you're doing this on your own.
But I come from a corporate background also where that's done. That's what you do.
That's right. But this is what I talk about a lot. We talk about that a lot, and it's got nothing to do with, see, this is not organized here. No. This is live. We didn't even know what we were going to talk about. And you're saying exactly what we are talking about. So if both of us are saying that, no, but it must work.
It must work. The cost of doing a Christmas card and it actually coming from you and you signing it and it making a difference is so much less than you doing a mailer that's going to end up in the mailbox with 9 other brokers who have bigger personas than you do, and it's not going to happen.
But I think a lot of people do the holidays and the major, like the birthdays, the anniversary of the purchase. I think that one is a given, or almost.
It's not. That's a very old school way of looking at it.
Everybody says, when I said, do you follow up? They say, I send Christmas or calendars. There's a tradition.
Calendars when I send the happy birthday.
Yeah, but that's not what we're talking about here. Yes, that is one step or one soft touch. Yes, absolutely. But I'm talking about, and you're talking about more of the frequency of these nurturing.
And listen, but I also have clients who are on my mailing list who get something from me every week. That they get, like an update, they get an article.
So what's the difference between the mailings? Oh, these are.
One is personalized.
Okay.
So a birthday card is personalized. We're talking soft touch. That's me saying, "Hey, happy birthday," or scrolling through social media and noticing something, or
commenting
and commenting, or just like sending them like knowing that they did something, sending them a message, be like, congratulations on your new job or whatever. Right. Another thing we did during COVID is we sent cards to everybody on our mailing list and said to them, had nothing to do with real estate. It just said, we know that this time is really hard. We're here if you need something.
I haven't. Something came up and I'm super excited about it.
Go ahead.
So we all know you're super successful. If you don't know, you'll find out.
Now you know.
Google,
now you know. If you don't know,
Carly,
now you know.
Carly at Fridman.com.
Mm-hmm.
Check Carly out. But the question is this, because it's exciting. It's exciting. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
How much? If you, I'm sure you know this, but if you don't, you can check and come back to us. But how much of your gross revenues do you take for your marketing or put aside for your marketing? Is it 20, 30, 40, 50%? Do you know that number or that percentage, I should say? Because all the time, because
don't reply.
What?
Don't say it. Don't say it.
When we did because we're in the process of writing the book, The Voice of Real Estate Brokers. So we interviewed almost 500 brokers, all of the top brokers, all of them. I won't say what it is, but substantial amounts was
of
allowed to. Yes.
I would tell you between 25 and 30% of my gross revenue goes to.
I think it's more than that.
Goes to marketing, social media, or any kind of that kind of.
There you go.
That kind of thing.
There you go.
See,
you got it.
So when brokers ask, like, what should I put aside? You're suggesting what? At least 30? 25?
I would, really depends on the level that you're at, but
No, but if
about
you're trying
20.
to, 20?
20 is a basis. I would say 20 because, listen, but it includes a lot of different things, right? Like your signs, your business cards.
Well, everything that pertains
Everything
to
that's-
visibility.
to visibility.
Or
Yeah.
greater visibility or greater reach
You know?
Yes.
of your brand. So this is good.
Yeah.
This is a good question. I'm
That is
happy I thought
good
about
job. Good job.
it. Do we have any questions, Stephen? Now's the time, brokers out there looking at this, because it's rare that you can just get to speak to someone of Carly's stature. No,
and,
but it's true. And,
no, I
and
would say of Carly's candor.
candor. Oh, you're more refined than me.
she is.
But so ask questions away, for real, like how and what, and we can go into the micro.
Go ahead, Steven.
Yeah, so Maria is saying she wants her date with Carly.
So Maria wants a date with Carly.
So that's not a question. But okay.
But thank you,
Oh, maybe
Maria.
it is. Maybe it is a
Is
question.
it a question?
Maybe it's when.
No, it's not a question. It's,
Oh, okay. So we accept comments, negative or good. Or positive.
Rizwan-
He doesn't want us to have our date because he doesn't want us to gossip about him.
Oh, that's already taken place, I'm sure.
So Rezwan's also asking, how do you think your background in marketing propelled your real estate career?
Okay, so it's
Did we hear that question? I don't know if we hear it in the
so
microphone.
basically what the person, sorry, I don't know if it's here, she just asked is, how did my background in marketing propel my career? So what's interesting is I think that my background in marketing structured me and structured my career, but I have a strength where I studied not only marketing, I studied communications. So my strength that I bring to the table is negotiation, mediation. That is what, if someone said to me, Carly, out of all the things you have to do in real estate, what is your skill? What is your skill set? What is that one thing that you're that you're really good at in your business? It's the negotiation of things. And that's where I excel. It's what I like. You put me down in front of someone, whether it's a broker or an individual, and I love to negotiate and I love to get the deal done. So that's what has propelled my career forward, knowing how to do that just instinctively.
And I also know that whenever you get the opportunity, if it's TV or radio or something that for most would put them in a very uncomfortable position, you're always up and saying yes. I'm sure you're nervous about it.
I'm not. And you know what I think
You're
it is?
not nervous
She's
about it?
not.
Come
No,
on.
I'm not.
She's a natural.
It's not
Who's
about
not
that.
nervous about doing TV or radio? You know that I went on the radio with Jeff this Monday?
Yeah.
And we didn't know, again, the topic. We got to work on that. But we just showed up and I was nervous.
I'm not nervous because
I wasn't.
You were.
No.
But what
I
you don't
wasn't.
realize is that's what you do every day as a broker. You're put on the spot. You're put on the spot with someone. You're constantly interviewed by a buyer. You're interviewed by the seller. So I think you also get used to it, and it's also a sense of confidence.
Okay, so why then are you not doing more of lives and events on your own platforms? Why not? I mean, if you're good at it, and you are, and you communicate well, why not open
That's
the...
actually
That's
a
a
good.
really
That's a
maybe
good
a good
question.
question. I don't know. I also don't. I mean, I'm humble. I don't like to hear myself talk too much, and I think that I don't know. Maybe I should be doing more.
Yes, you
Maybe I
should.
Well, actually, you know what? Michelle and I do Q&As. We didn't do it this year because of the restrictions of COVID and all that. But our Q&A usually does very, very well because
I'm sure.
of the
Because you
talking
got
back
a lot
and
of
forth.
followers, you got a big group, and you have a lot of people on LinkedIn too, if I'm not mistaken.
And I also love to talk to my peers. Like, I don't think I'm not a believer that you can't talk to other brokers and share your experience with other brokers and, give other brokers advice. I said, we did we have every week, we have our group meetings.
Yes.
So I was on one group meeting. Jeff, you were there.
Yes.
I just popped on because I actually had a question. I thought the question that I had for Melissa would be very helpful to everybody because it was something that, trust me, after doing this as long as I've done it, you still have questions. Weird things still happen that
sure.
you don't know the answer to. So I popped on and asked a question, but one of the brokers was asking, like, how does if she can't reach a 10 or this or the other? And I said, never hesitate to get on the phone with a broker that you know. We're here to offer advice to each other.
That's right.
I have colleagues and I've made friends over the years in this business. And the first thing I do when I have a question or I'm not sure is I I bounce it off a soundboard. What do you think?
But
They're
that's
not my competition.
But in typical, in other agencies, this is not a typical thing, though. It's
What, to call other brokers?
Well,
Well, the brokers, to be honest, the brokers I'm calling aren't brokers in this agency. They're brokers from different agencies that I just have a relationship and a friendship with because you can't see they're your colleagues. They're not your competition. When you're going for a listing, they're your competition. When you're on the field in and day out,
Yeah.
other brokers are not your competition. They're your colleagues. And
There
if you work
has
together,
to be this mutual respect.
100%.
for
If
sure.
you work together, you're working together for the greater good of everybody. The truth is, the OICIQ does not.
Let's not go down
No,
that
but
road.
the OICIQ
So
does
this
not
is-
necessarily give you the live answers, right? It's very.
We're gonna cut this out. Of
So
the,
this is
No,
the
but let me
moment
finish-
where
no,
we're
but
like,
let me finish.
let's not talk politics.
It's not. No, it's not politics. But when you call the OICIQ with a question, they're going to give you back the law. They're not going to give you back the real life experience.
Oh,
So-
yes, exactly. The
you want
strategy. in
the
other words.
strategy. So sometimes you need to call another broker who might have had the experience or not, and be like,
Yes.
what do you think? Listen, last night I called a friend of mine who's a broker at a different agency, and I said, I need a moral compass. I'm someone who is, as you know, takes everything very personally, and my clients, my buyers become my babies. I'm like
Right.
very protective of them, and I don't like to say the wrong thing or do. And sometimes I take it trop personnel because that's just who I am as a person. And I had to say, like, am I being too sensitive for my own buyer, or I'm like, should I just take a step back and like, this is the game? And she said to me, you know what? This is the game. Like, just take a step back. This is the game. And she was, I needed to hear that from someone else who I know also takes things very personally.
Yeah.
It's a rough market to be in with your buyers. So like sometimes you get your back up against the wall personally. And I needed to hear it from someone else. And listen, the OICIQ wouldn't have given me that answer, and neither would you necessarily. You needed someone who shares your values, but does this day in and day out with you,
Yeah.
and would have that same kind of answer,
I'm
Interesting.
sure that if I was starting out, or if I had even 10 years of experience, I'd love to ask you questions. Is there anybody else, Stephen, that has a
You'd be
question
petrified.
right now?
You wouldn't want to talk to me at 10.
What are you talking about?
Yeah. So Nick is saying throughout the course of these live sessions, we've learned that Etienne's an avid reader, and he's asking if Carly also reads, and what's your favorite real estate book?
Oh boy, I'm gonna look. I'm gonna look real
that
bad
face
here.
was priceless.
I do not have time to
You
read.
have time. Everybody has time.
I don't,
you gave me
can
a-
I finish? That's true. Here,
Huh?
give me the book. Tell
See?
it to me. So I don't read on a regular basis. I read the news. I read about what's going on globally because that's what's really important in real estate. Reading real estate news is important, but you need to know the markets. You need to know the economy. You need to know what's going on in trends, all that kind of
Well, you
stuff.
have to be able to communicate with people about
Exactly.
what's
So-
going on.
That's where I tend to spend my time reading. I don't like to read for personal gain. I have read books in the past and stuff like that, but I don't do it regularly. But I did buy a book, and I'm going to plug it
Yeah.
because I'm really into it. So this is called The ABCs of Finance.
And just to clarify, this is not for me personally.
No, it's a gift for his children.
For my 1-year-old boy.
Yes. So it's a great book, and it was actually done by a real estate broker during COVID because she wanted a side project, and she has a background in finance, and she's a smart cookie, and I've known her since she was a
Mention
little
who it
girl.
is.
It's Brittany Rosenblatt, and so I saw that she did this book, and so I bought 10 copies because I think it's the best thing. And I always say the one thing that we don't teach our children enough about, or
Yeah, at all.
millennials or anybody
Yeah.
about, is finance. And for someone who works in an industry like we do, we know a lot more about finance than most people. But it's shocking the amount of buyers that you meet, first-time home buyers, that don't know anything about their finance. And it's not your place as a broker to educate them necessarily, and you can't, but it's so shocking. And this is like when I read through her book, it's true. Some people don't even know what the stock market is.
What's the stock market? Stephen,
It's where non-real estate people invest their money.
do we have any other questions, Stephen?
Nicholas is just answering back. He's saying he didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, it's okay. It's all good, Nicholas. Don't worry about it.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Carly, for
My
doing this.
pleasure.
We're going to do, if you're up for it, we're
Of
going to do
course.
this more regularly with other questions and other topics because it's an immense
Absolutely.
field and we can talk for hours. Jeff, you want to say a few last words?
Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
We will have you more. We will have you. We'll have Michelle as
Yeah,
well.
have it
let's have the
together.
team.
Because, the team. Let's talk about team next time. That'd be
Absolutely.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
All right. And ask
Awesome.
questions if you do. Comments, send us your topics you'd like for us to
Yeah,
ask.
and you guys can send me a DM or message me on Facebook if you have other questions. I'm always here to answer whatever it be.
Fantastic. Thank you very
My
much.
pleasure.